Welcome to Lesson 5, Numerical Input and Arithmetic Operations. So let's go to Replit. So from the previous lesson, we learned how to create variables and get input from the user. So let's just review that part. So we'll do num equals input. Let's give the person a prompt. Let's say enter an integer, which is a whole number. And let's simply print out what they gave us. So we'll do number 1. Let's run it. It's asking us for a number, so let's say 5. We print it. Life is good. Again, get used to running your programs frequently just to make sure that you don't have syntax errors or logical errors. Don't wait to complete a whole activity and then try to run it for the first time. You'll get multiple errors. You'll get frustrated. So if you run frequently throughout, you'll catch these errors sooner before they accumulate on you. So going back to our example, let's say we want to do number plus some amount. So let's say number plus 5. So in this case, if I entered in 5, I would get 10. Let's try to run this again. So I'm going to do 5. Our expectation is to get the number 10 back. We get an error. The error comes from the fact that even though we entered a number in, the computer sees this as a string. And let me prove that to you. So instead of doing number plus 5, the example we want, I'm going to use the command type, which many of you explored in, I believe it was lesson 3. Again, type will give you the data type of the information being stored in the variable. So let's try it. So let's do 5 again, enter. And sure enough, even though we entered a 5, we're seeing that Python sees it as a string. That's because anything that comes back from an input is string. So something else that some of you explored in that data type lesson was this command called int. Now, a lot of you were using it to kind of explicitly state that a variable is an integer, but the more useful purpose or application of the int command is to do something like this. Let's take an input, which is string, and let's convert it into an integer. So that's how I like to use this command. The fact that it converts strings into input. So let's go back to this and let's put our type back in. Num, just to prove to you that now num is an integer, not a string. So let's put 5 again, and there you go. You can see that type, that number is now considered an integer, which means if we go back to our example of num plus 5, we should get our answer of 10. And there you go, we got 10. So what I want to do right now is kind of just quickly go through all the other arithmetic operations available to us instead of just addition. So let's do num1, num2. And for this one, I want to show you another common function, which is float, which is to handle decimal numbers. So let's say enter a decimal. And now what we're going to do, we're simply going to perform all the arithmetic operations with these two. So we'll say print num1 plus num2. Then we'll do num1 times num2. Then we'll do print num1 divided by num2. Then we'll print, I forgot about subtraction, num1 minus num2. Then we're going to print num1. This is the exponent operator. So the way you do exponents, something raised to a power, is to simply use 2 multiplication signs. That's one of the nice things about Python that many other languages don't have, is that they actually have an operator for exponents. In most other languages, you have to use a function, command called pal. But I'm not going to show that to you here. It is available in Python as well. But we're going to take advantage that Python has the exponent operator. So I think I covered everything. In the last one, I want to do something different. So I don't want you to think that arithmetic operations always have to be done in a print statement. you could create another variable to do the arithmetic operations. And I would almost suggest this is the better way of doing it so that you can possibly reuse the variables later on. So let's say we take number 1 plus number 2, and let's multiply the result of that summation by 10. Again, so what I'm showing you in this example, which is probably a little easier than to see inside the print statement, is that parentheses has the highest order of operations. You will always evaluate something in the parentheses first before doing any other operation. So this will force the computer to add the two numbers, number 1 plus number 2, and then multiply by 10. Again, without these parentheses, the computer would default to doing multiplication first, which would be number 2 times 10, and then add the number 1. So again, the parentheses has the highest order of operations, then comes exponents, then multiplication, division, and then addition and subtraction. Yeah. Many of you might remember this as PEMDAS. All programming languages have to follow the rules of arithmetic or orders of operations. So let's go ahead and print our last answer. And let's try it out. Let's see what happens. So let's do 3 and 3.5. No idea what the results are. So we got 6.5, which is the sum of both of them. We got the multiplication, which is 10.5. I'm going to take it for face value that this is the division of those two numbers. Here's the subtraction. Here's 1 raised to the other power. And then here's that parenthesis and multiplications. Let's do this one real quick. So this was 3 plus 3.5, which we already know is 6.5, and then multiplied by 10. All right, so we see that the parentheses did force the summation to happen first. All right? So that's today's lesson, how to take numerical input, convert it to either an integer or float, use arithmetic operations to do some kind of calculation, and then print it out, and also the idea that we could create a variable to also do the arithmetic operations, which sometimes makes it cleaner than simply doing it inside the print statement. And so as review, today we have covered numerical input and arithmetic operations. Thank you.